Okay, good morning. Welcome to our bi-weekly live yoga class. This class is now going to be bi-weekly, every other Thursday at 9:30 a.m. And today's practice is a Hatha class for finding space for breath. So in this practice, we're going to be focusing on front body openings, including the area of the heart and chest, and the lower belly and diaphragm, as these are the predominant spaces that we breathe into. More often than not, we're breathing more into the upper chest and collarbones, and a little less into the lower belly. So in today's practice, I want us to try and cultivate breath as evenly as possible into all parts of the front body in order to help with grounding, centering, recalibrating, breathing vitality into the um, vital organs of the digestive system and the reproductive system and the respiratory system. So we're going to do a little exercise at the start of the class, and we'll do the same exercise at the end of the class, and I want us to just notice if there is any differences. Often when we start a practice with breath work, it can be challenging. Sometimes it's not easy to drop into breath work. So I just want you to be aware of that, and just to observe what is showing up for you at the start of the class, and then do those same observations at the end and just see if there's been any shifts. So I'll meet you on your mat, and we'll be in Sukhasana, a tall seat. So feel free to grab a block or bolster to sit on. I didn't mention the props we'd be using today, but if you have a blanket and a bolster, you can grab those. And if you have props, you can also grab those. If you don't have those items, you can always make shift with cushions or pillows or thick books instead of blocks. Once you've found your tall seat, move your shoulders but down your back and invite more space across your collarbones. And if you're comfortable to close your eyes, do so, or simply draw your gaze down to the floor. Extend upwards through the crown of your head and root down through the pelvis. Begin to receive your breath without making any alterations or changes. Simply notice where you're naturally breathing. And then from here, let us place one hand on the lower belly, one hand on the heart space. And I want us to join together for Dirga Pranayama. This is also known as three-part breathing. So your hands are nice and soft, just simply resting to the front spaces of your torso. And right now, you're just receiving your breath regularly and naturally. On your next inhale breath, start to expand your lower belly, and then your rib cage, and all the way up to the top of your lungs. And then as you exhale, drawing the air from the top of the lungs, the diaphragm, and eventually the lower belly until you feel a gentle pull of belly button to spine. You can continue like that. Your inhale expanding from the base of the belly to the middle belly to the top of the chest. And then exhaling all that air out, starting from the chest, the middle belly, and the lower belly. So as you continue like this, only allowing the breath to get as deep and wide as is comfortable for your body in this moment. Don't force it too big, too wide just yet, if that doesn't feel available or it's making you feel uncomfortable. Notice where it feels more effortless to expand on the front of the body. Notice where there is ease. Notice how long the breath is, how slow the breath is at this point in the practice. Let's take 3 more full cycles of Dirga Pranayama. And then when you're ready, you can release your hands and return to a regular breath. On your next inhale, stretch both of your arms wide and up to the sky. Interlace your fingers, turn your palms up. Exhale, draw your chin to your chest, round your tailbone forwards, press your hands forwards. Breathe into your back. On your inhale, roll up through your spine till your arms are overhead. As you exhale, rounding the back, chin to chest, press the tailbone forwards. As you inhale, roll up through the spine till your head lifts. One more cycle. Exhale, rounding the back. And inhale, rolling all the way up. And placing your hands behind your head with your elbows bent. Lean your head back into your hands, widen your elbows, and move your shoulder blades down the back of your rib cage. Observing this initial opening for the chest, for the upper back. Breathe here. Return everything back to center and lower your hands onto your thighs. Take a big inhale and lift your shoulders up. A big exhale to roll your shoulders back and down. Take an inhale breath and float your right arm into the sky and lean to the left with your left hand or forearm to the mat. Keep the pelvis rooting down, the top arm long. Eyes can be open or closed. You can look down, forwards, or up, depending what feels good for your head and neck. Further to this, your top hand can come behind your head, and you can start to look at your top elbow. This will help to open the chest and shoulders a little more. You can stay like this as you inhale your breath. And then maybe as you exhale, you round your spine and imagine your right elbow moving towards your left thigh. Continue like this. Inhale to open, chest to the sky, looking up. Exhale to round your back, elbow towards opposite thigh. One more cycle. Inhale to open. Exhale to round. Inhale all the way back to center. Core is engaged as you rise up. Both hands come onto your thighs. Inhale, lift your shoulders up. And exhale, roll your shoulders down your back. Second side, left arm up to the sky as you inhale. Exhale, right hand or forearm to the earth. Top arm long, pelvis hugging down. Find a position for your head and neck that is comfortable. Check that you're in a side stretch that is not too deep. Make sure that you can still breathe with fluidity up and down this left side. Further to this, top hand can come behind your head. Inhale, open the chest and look up at the top elbow. Exhale, rounding the back, elbow towards opposite thigh. Two more of these. Inhale to open, using a full long breath. And exhale to round. One more cycle. Inhale to open. And exhale to round. Use your inhale to come all the way back to center. Exhale to land your hands. And take a full breath in. And a full breath out. Let's meet in tabletop on our hands and knees. Feel free to pad under your knees with a blanket if you have knee sensitivity. Spread your fingers onto the mat directly underneath your shoulders and your knees directly underneath your hips. Your toes are tucked. Begin by just swaying your pelvis right to left so we can incorporate a little movement and fluidity into the pelvic bowl, into the lower back. Just decipher how things feel here. You might sway the hips and look at the hip as it moves right and left, making more of a C shape in the back. Lovely. And now we'll come into puppy pose, so finding neutral in tabletop. Start to walk your hands forwards and wide on your mat. Keeping the pelvis high, ease your chest back and down towards the floor. Your forehead or your chin can rest on the mat, or you could put a block there if there's a gap between your head and the floor. If this feels too much around your shoulders or your chest, bend your elbows some more and put more of your forearms to the floor. If this feels good in your arms, then maybe you stay. Maybe you challenge this a little more by coming up onto your fingertips. Maybe you play with how wide or how parallel your arms are from one another. This may change sensation for you. Breathe around your chest, shoulders, upper back. And while you're doing this, draw your belly button towards your spine. So you're massaging your digestive system. Let's take 5 breaths. On your next inhale, come up onto your hands and knees. Pour your exhale into the mat. Move the hips and back a little. And this time, let us meet in downward facing dog. Rising the back of the pelvis to the sky. Lengthening the backs of your legs. Hugging your heels back and down towards the mat. Head relaxed between your arms. Shoulder blades moving down the back of your rib cage. All 10 of your finger pads pressing into the floor. A gentle softness around your elbows. And lots of breath. On your next inhale breath, float your right leg into the sky. Bend your right knee and open your hips gently to the right. If this shape ever feels too much, you can always do this from tabletop position. No problem. Hug your right knee into your chest and step your right foot lightly between your 2 hands. You can always help that right foot along with your right hand. And here you either have your fingertips on the floor or you grab your blocks and have a block under each hand at either its middle or at its highest height. Bring your entire pelvis more forwards and down and begin to lift your chest and your chin while rolling your shoulders down your back and keeping your elbows soft. Either stay like this or place your hands on your top thigh, lifting the chest a little more, hugging your right hip back, your left hip forwards, spreading your right toes into the mat. If you feel steady, floating the arms up to the sky. And now bring your entire pelvis more forwards and down. From here, bend your elbows and come into goddess arms. So your elbows are in line with your shoulders and your palms are facing forwards. Take an inhale breath, squeeze your elbows and shoulders back and lift your chin and your chest up. As you exhale, bring your fingertips and elbows together and look down. And again, inhale to open, expand the heart. Exhale to close. One more cycle. Inhale to open. Exhale to close. Bring your hands to your heart. Return your hands to the mat or your blocks. Roll your shoulders down your back. Lift your chin and your chest once again. On your next inhale breath, take your pelvis back, lengthening your right leg, flexing your right foot any amount, folding your torso over your right shin. You can have your hands walking a little closer to your body. And as you fold forwards, you're thinking about your heart reaching for your toes rather than your forehead hugging down towards your kneecap. Keep the length in the spine. Take 3 more breaths. Breathe into the hamstring. And now start to lower that right foot to the mat, bend the right knee, remove your props, place your left hand on the mat next to your right foot. Your right arm reaches up to the sky and open your chest to the right, extending away through your two arms, enjoying a big wingspan here. For this one, if you'd like, you can lift your back knee away from the floor, push your left heel towards the back of the room, hug your right hip more back and down. It really wants to lift up and lean forwards. Try and squeeze that imaginary beach ball between your inner thighs. This top hand can either stay in the sky or can wrap around your lower back or around to your left hip crease. You can look up, straight to the wall, or down to the mat. Take 3 more breaths. Lower the left knee, lower your right hand, and step back to down dog or tabletop position and exhale your breath. Maybe rock your hips. Come down onto your hands and knees and locate your 2 blocks. Widen your knees, connect your big toes together, and sink the pelvis back and down towards child's pose. If there's a big gap between your pelvis and your heels, feel free to slide your bolster into that space. With your blocks, you're going to place your elbows to them. And you're going to fold your forehead towards the floor. It may touch, it may not. From here, connect your hands together and bring your thumbs to the back of the head, neck, or shoulders. You're walking your elbows more forwards if that feels comfortable. If this feels too much, you can always remove the blocks, no problem. You can either keep your hands connected in prayer behind you or rest the hands where they land. Wrap the breath around shoulder blades and under your arms. You might naturally feel more breath expanding into your chest. Take 3 more breaths. Not only is this a great class for creating breath and space, but if you work a lot at a desk or you do a lot of activities where you're folding forwards, this might be a wonderful counter practice. Releasing your hands back onto the floor, removing your props. Come back up onto your hands and knees and exhale your breath. Coming back up into downward facing dog if that feels appropriate today, or remaining in tabletop position. Take a full breath in and a long breath out. On your next inhale, float your left leg into the sky. Bend your left knee and gently open your hips to the left. Hug your left knee into your chest. Step the left foot forwards. Lower the right knee. Have your fingertips on the floor or hands on blocks either side of this left foot. Bringing your whole pelvis more forwards and down. Lift your chin and your chest up. Find your breath. Soften your elbows. Breathe into your right hip flexor and the front lines of your torso. From here, root down into that left foot. Place your hands on your top thigh. Lift the hips a little more. Reestablish your balance, your place of center. If this ever feels too much, you can always put those hands back on your blocks. From here, option to float your two arms into the sky and parallel above you. Now bring your pelvis a little more forwards and down, but maintaining that control through your inner legs, through your hips. Don't collapse and create too much compression in your lower back. From here, bend the elbows, come into goddess. Inhale, elbows and shoulders squeeze back, lift your chin and chest up. Exhale, bring your fingertips and elbows together, look down. Inhale to open, looking up. If changing the position of your gaze is too much, just keep looking forwards. That might help to keep you balanced. Exhale, bring the elbows and fingers together. One more cycle. Inhale to open. Exhale to close. Bring your hands to your heart. Bring your hands down to the mat or your blocks. On your next inhale, take your pelvis back, flex your left foot, and fold your body over your left shin. You can either keep your hands extending forwards, or you could walk your hands or blocks a little closer to your body if that feels more comfortable. Hug your left hip back and down, squeeze through your inner legs, and take 3 more breaths. Even when we're exploring space and length in the front body, it's still very important that we keep the body balanced and we provide space and length to the back spaces too. Bend back into this left knee, left foot to the floor. Walk your hands either side of your left foot. Bring your pelvis forwards, lift your chin and your chest. One more time. Take a big breath in and a big breath out. Place your right hand on the floor next to your left foot. Extend your left arm into the sky, opening your chest, expanding across your 2 arms. You can look up, down, or straight ahead. You can also lift the back knee off the floor and push away with the back heel if that feels appropriate. This top hand can either stay to the sky or wrap around your lower back or wrap towards your right hip. Try not to lock your right arm. Keep a soft bend in that elbow. Squeeze the left hip back and down. And take 3 more breaths. Lower that right knee. Lower your left hand. Step back to either down dog or tabletop, or if you prefer, you could take child's pose. Exhale your breath and apply any little gentle movements that feel good for your hips, for your back, for your front body. If you're not already in tabletop position, you can make your way there. And then from here, I'm going to offer hero pose, which is not for everybody's knees. So I'll show it to you with options. And then if none of those options work, then I'll show you an alternative. So for this, I'm going to maintain the prop under the knees. And I'm going to start to sit back and down on the heels. But as I do this, I'm wiggling the pelvis into the gap between the heels. So now the heels are resting to the outer edges of the 2 thighs. Your knees are still on the floor. This does create pressure on the tops of the feet, the ankles, the knees. So this is why it's not for everybody. A couple of things you can try. You could either place 1 or 2 blocks underneath your seat. So that way you're sitting a little higher and you're not putting as much pressure on those joints. And this might work for you. Further to this, if you'd like to take it a little further so you can start to open up those front lines, we can move into a gentle recline position. So if you have props underneath you, you can still do this, just putting your fingers on the floor behind you, looking forwards. You're pressing your pelvis forwards. You can be on fingertips or flat hands with the fingers pointing towards the toes. Make sure your knees remain hugging down to the mat. If you don't have blocks underneath your pelvis, you might find that you want to come down a little bit further. And if that's the case, you can come down onto your forearms, rooting the fronts of those knees down to the mat. If this feels good, maybe you lower your back onto the floor, hands on your lower belly, or arms in a diamond shape around your head. Being mindful this isn't creating too much compression in your lower back and that your knees are remaining on the floor. One other option for this full variation is the bolster behind you, hugging the back of your pelvis, and then lowering your body onto the bolster. So that's the full version. If either of your legs are just not wanting to be in this position, you could always just have one leg in this position and the other leg straight in front of you. If, though, it is both legs that are just not happy in this position, I totally get it. Instead, you can create a gentle supported back bend with your bolster behind you and maybe a block behind the bolster for the head if you want a little more of an incline. Keeping your pelvis to the floor or putting the pelvis on the cushioning of your blanket. Lower your entire back and the back of your head to your bolsters, and you can have your legs nice and long and wide in Shavasana. That way you're still creating a lovely hip flexor opening, just without the pressure on those joints. If you are in hero pose, the full version I just showed you before, take 5 more breaths. And then those of you in hero pose, to come out, you're going to press your hands or forearms back into the floor. Lift your chin, your chest, and then slowly, as best you can, in equal parts, lifting your entire back to center. You might want to come up onto your hands and knees and extend one leg back at a time. You might want to come into downward facing dog to release the backs of the legs. Or you might choose to join our friends and come into this recline position with or without the bolster underneath your back. We'll all eventually meet here with the legs long in Shavasana, or you could have soles of the feet together now, knees wide in butterfly pose, Supta Baddha Konasana. Hands can be on inner thighs for weight, lower belly for grounding, or arms wide across the floor for more opening and expansion into the front lines of the body. Your eyes can remain open or softly closed. And once you're here, you have the option to be still or to add in some lubricating, massaging movements to your arms and shoulders. So if this feels good for you, you can enjoy as many rounds of these movements as you like. If at any time you prefer to just be still, then know that you can come back to this. So you can begin with just some gentle shoulder rolls up, back, and down. Or maybe hands on the shoulders and the elbows, making big circles. Or maybe floating your long arms forwards and up and all the way back behind you. And then exhale as you widen your arms all the way down by your sides. See how this goes, how this feels. If along any of these pathways you want to pause and hang out, if it feels good for the body, for the breath, for this spaciousness we're cultivating, feel free to stay, to pause, to breathe a little longer. Anytime you're taking an inhale breath, make sure it's with an upward movement. So anytime the shoulders, elbows, or arms are lifting up, take your inhale. And then anytime the arms are moving in a downward direction, take your exhale. Five more breaths. And slowly bring your hands to the outsides of your knees. Bring the knees together if you're in butterfly. And just let the legs go long and wide like they would be in Shavasana. I invite you now to place one hand on your lower belly, one hand to your chest with your elbows relaxed to the floor. And let us return to Durga Pranayama, the practice we began with, to simply notice if there has been any more expanse, any more depth, any more slowness, any more ease in breathing into these front lines. You can begin when you're ready. You're inhaling into your lower belly, into your upper belly and diaphragm, and all the way up to the top of your lungs and chest. And as you exhale, you're drawing all the air out of the chest, the middle belly, and finally the lower belly till you feel belly button towards spine. Continuing like this, full expansive breaths. If it ever feels too much, just return to a regular breath and feel the breath rising and falling in your hands. And then very gently in this last cycle, release this breath work. You can either remain like this with your arms wide in Shavasana, or you can remove the props underneath your back, lower your entire back to the floor, and take a more traditional Shavasana like that. Feel free to add extra layers or cover your eyes. Make yourself comfortable and grounded. Release any effort from the practice. Let your body drift. Let your body soak up this newfound space in your front lines. I will call you from Shavasana when it's time. If you have more time to dedicate to your Shavasana today, then please stay as long as you need. If, however, it's time for you to come out now, I invite you to bring awareness back to your fingers and toes and make little movements. And then into your wrists and ankles. And then taking a nice full body stretch as you inhale. As you exhale, bring your knees into your chest or just simply place your feet to the floor. Maybe rock a little side to side across your lower back until you're ready to roll onto your side. And then gently finding your way up to Sukhasana, a tall, comfortable seat with your eyes soft or closed to end your practice. Notice how it feels to breathe naturally into your torso, particularly the front spaces, the areas we've tried to open and expand this morning. Hold on to any sense of deeper breathing, spaciousness, taller sitting as you move through the rest of your day. May this practice have been of service to you now and as you step off your mat. Let's take a sealing breath together, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Thank you so much for your time, your energy. It's my pleasure to guide you. Namaste.